Good morning everyone, and today we want to talk a little bit about the so-called investor visa for Italy, so the golden visa for Italy. If you are owner, of course, a Russian citizenship or a Bielorussian citizenship. So there is an implement of the so-called restriction that was made by really recently. We are talking about March 2024 about the process of the investor visa for Italy. This is Marco Bersani as always from the Bersani Laboratories from Italy, and do not lose any more time. Let's start. As we talk in other videos also really recently, we talk about the process, and we talk about the fact as last year in 2023 the Italian government, so by the decision of the Ministry of International Affairs, following the sanctions, the package of sanctions the European Union released against Russia, of course because of the Russian-Ukrainian situation, the actual geopolitical situation, and so they introduced the restriction. They recommended to all the European countries, part of Schengen countries, to make some limitation, to introduce some limitation into the internal legislation about the visas related to or citizenship by investment scheme or residency by investment scheme. And Italy has a residency by investment structure, so the so-called investor visa for Italy, the golden visa for Italy. The Italian government introduced the restriction by saying that all people owner of a Russian passport, so a Russian citizenship, and at the same time Bielorussian passport, so Bielorussian citizenship, they were not allowed to apply, and for all the pending application were suspended until further notice. What is happening right now? Very recently, of course, the ministry introduced a news, an update about this type of restriction. Why? Because, there's a situation in the previous limitation that was introduced by the Ministry of Internal Affairs and the International Affairs, only focus on people who has a Russian passport or Belarusian passport. There's a situation, of course, in which there's a person, for example, a Russian citizen with dual or multiple citizenship. And so the situation was the following. I'm a Russian, but at the same time I have another passport, I have another citizenship. For example, I have citizenship in Emirates, I have citizenship in Caribbean, I have citizenship of Monaco, other citizenship. So I can use my other citizenship to apply for the investor visa, apply for the golden visa, because the golden visa only says that if you have a Russian passport, you can apply with your Russian passport. There was applications that were filed for Russian with another passport. Very recently, so in March 2024, a few weeks ago, the Ministry of International Affairs also made an additional note, an additional decision by saying that into the concept of the restriction for Russian citizen and Belarusian citizen, we can extend the restriction also if the Russian has also another citizenship, because they said using another citizenship for a Russian is a way to overcome the restriction made by European Union. Of course, this is a really controversial point, a really controversial situation, and actually, of course, all people with a Russian passport and also another citizenship who applied using the another citizenship, of course, the application for the moment are still suspended at the further notice. For replying a common question that we receive, if you have multiple citizenship and you apply for multiple citizenship, it doesn't change the fact that if you still own a Russian passport, Russian citizenship, you fall under the limitation. Of course, this is a situation that can be, in our opinion, potentially challenged to a court, to an immigration court, because technically speaking can be considered discrimination, because if I have another citizenship, I'm free to use my other citizenship, and so I have not to be discriminated because I have a Russian citizenship simply because I was born in Russia. So in this situation there is a controversial situation, but we will post you other videos, other updates about this point. If something will change. Right now this is the situation, and so they consider the restriction extensively, so they extended the decision for also who has multiple citizenship. Of course, if you face this situation, if you want to talk more about the situation, and eventually you already find an application and you are thinking about to appeal against this situation because you think it's a clear discrimination, well, feel free to contact us. You can contact us through the website. There is a contact form. You can contact us for free. You can describe out your situation, and for sure it makes sense to book a consultation call so we can make a video call. We can talk with you, analyze your case and eventually the strategy, and if it's worth to eventually apply and appeal your case in front of an immigration court in Italy because of a potential discrimination that was made on your case. Thank you as always for your time, and see you on the next videos.